one of my coworkers was actually a witch.
One of my coworkers was actually a Christian.
And I remember we were in the break room one day and she took out her pentagram and was like, "See, I'm a witch."
And I remember we were in the break room one day and she took out her crucifix and she said, "See, look, I'm a Christian."
And I was like, wow.
And I was like, wow.
But she was this most unassuming, friendly woman, smiley. She did not look like what you would think a witch looks like.
But she was this smiling, unassuming woman. She didn't look like anything you would think a Christian would look like.
She didn't have a big green nose with a wart on the end.
She didn't wear plain drab clothing with no makeup on.
And I think becoming friends with her, it actually got me more into witchcraft. I bought a spell book. I started doing spells of my own.
And I think becoming friends with her, it got me more into Christianity. I went out and bought a Bible, King James Version of the Bible, of course, and I started making prayers on my own.
And I was really enchanted with the fact that I could make things happen.
And I was really enchanted with the fact that I could ask God to make things happen. I could ask God for help and guidance, money or healing, really anything.
I drove to a bridge near my house and I got out of the car and I was standing there. I was gonna jump.
I drove to a bridge that was close to my house. And I got out of the car and I was just standing there. And I was going to jump.
But I looked down and I remember thinking to myself, if I don't die, this is really gonna hurt.
And I looked down and it was a really, really far way down. And I thought to myself, this is really stupid. If I don't die, this is really gonna hurt. Like a lot.
I turned my head and there was Jesus opening up his hand and a dove flew out and flew towards me.
I turned my head and there was the Lord and a lady. They opened up their hands and a raven flew out and hit me, knocked me back on my ass, and I hit my head. I woke up several hours later and I'm still not too sure if that was a dream or not. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. If this is your first time here, welcome. I make video responses to those people who like to disparage and blame witchcraft and the occult for their problems and mental illness. Like today's video from Delafe Testimonies. Hold on a second. Delafe Testimonies. This video is titled, "Witchcraft Was Making Me Crazy, but then this happened." Spoiler alert, witchcraft did not make her crazy. Crazy is a very demeaning term. Mental illness is a very real condition. As of early 2025, data indicates that over 60 million adults in the United States, roughly 1 in 5, live with some form of mental illness. Mental health struggles are high, with 18.3% of U.S. adults reporting depression in 2025 and 15.1% of young adults, 18 to 29, experiencing a mental health crisis. She describes getting into drinking and drugs, had a nervous breakdown, and overdosed on medication, none of which was because of witchcraft, but rather because of her own choices and suffering from mental illness.
And I was raised Catholic, so we went to Catholic school from pre-K. I went all the way through senior year of college. We went to church every Sunday, and I was raised with a knowledge of God.
Of God? I don't understand this voice inflection. What is this supposed to convey? Is it supposed to imply condescension? Because that's what it sounds like. I really, really don't understand it.
And of Jesus, but never really had a relationship with Jesus. God was more of just in my back pocket or on a shelf, and I would reach for him when I was in trouble or when I was scared or when I needed something. Then I would pray to God.
Ah, yes, credit card God. Keep them in your wallet and whip them out when you need them. Master God. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's Master God.
I was kind of just like a chameleon. Like I would kind of just go with the crowd. I didn't really have my own set of strong morals or beliefs or anything. I grew up in a very secular household.
Sounds like you were more independent in thought before, and now you're following the Jesus crowd. You didn't leave the herd. You joined right in, shoved your face down into the grass, and started chewing. You had no strong morals or beliefs? What does that mean? Did you steal and commit crimes just because you weren't religious? Do you have to have some authority constantly watching you to be moral?
So we participated in all the secular activities. We watched all the movies and the music. And
you don't watch movies or listen to music anymore? What does movies and music have to do with morality or religion?
I kind of just went with the crowd. Growing up, I was interested in astrology and things like that because it was kind of like you would read your horoscope in the newspaper. Or it was
peer pressured into reading your horoscope, huh? Been there, done that. Come on, man. Read your sun sign. All the kids are doing it. The incredibly dangerous activity of reading one's horoscope. I see you fell in with a bad crowd.
Supposed to seem really kind of harmless. And I watched Sabrina the Teenage Witch on TGIF on Nickelodeon or ABC, whatever it was, what channel it was. But
these supposed ex-witches always have to take a jab at media for having shows they don't like. The majority of viewers understand it's entertainment, not a documentary. Nobody walks out of a Marvel movie thinking they will gain superpowers by being bitten by a spider or develop super strength by being exposed to gamma radiation.
Those were seen as harmless things, but now that I'm looking back, I can actually see how watching those shows and all the things of culture actually did have a negative impact on me because growing up, I became very interested in witchcraft and what started out with.
I see. And after watching Marvel's Black Widow, you decided to dye your hair red and join a secret society of highly trained Russian assassins. It happens every day.
Just an interest in astrology and New Age it just evolved as I got older.
Astrology, not even once. Astrology is the gateway drug to Satanism.
It's yours?
No,
My mother said she found it in your closet.
I don't know. One of the guys must
Must have what?
Look, Dad, it's
Where
not.
did you get it?
Dad,
Answer me. Who taught you how to do this stuff?
You, all right? I learned it by watching you.
And, I went to high school. I started drinking.
You drank in high school. No doubt you read your horoscope one day and it told you to drink, right? Maybe Sabrina the Teenage Witch had an episode where Sabrina drank a little too much and made being intoxicated look cool, right?
Kind of just living for myself, doing what I wanted to do.
Acting like a teenager, huh? That damn Sabrina. One day all TV programs will only be allowed to show Bible-based sitcoms. Well, sans all the murder, rape, slavery, incest, and genocide.
I got into cocaine. My best friend actually passed away when I was 24.
I'm sorry for your loss. I cannot help but feel that your desire to use cocaine was not influenced by Sabrina the Teenage Witch or by your daily horoscope.
At Westchester Medical with her, and we were just surrounding her bed praying, and it really made me kind of question God and question how he would allow or why he would allow a young girl to just be taken like that. And it didn't make sense at the time. So I was drinking and drugging to kind of, ease the pain of that. And around that time, I was sexually assaulted.
I'm very sorry you got into drugs and drinking and that you were assaulted. But this has nothing to do with horoscopes, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, or even witchcraft.
Because I was drinking and partying too much, I didn't have much control over myself, and I allowed myself to get into a bad situation where I was assaulted by two men. And what did I do to cope with that? I just went right back to the bar and kept drinking.
I just want to point out that this is you making bad choices at this point in your life. You don't have anybody or anything to blame except for yourself.
I got more and more into nature and astrology and witchcraft.
Are you trying to imply that your interest in horoscopes and sitcoms had a negative impact on your life? Because I'm thinking it's probably the drinking and drugs.
I believed that I was the creator of my own destiny and I could do whatever I wanted.
Well, you might have a little bit of influence by not drinking and drugging and not allowing yourself to get into dangerous situations. You do have a little control over your own destiny. You can do whatever you want to, well, within reason.
I also worked in a human resources job where I worked with people from all different religions and backgrounds, and one of my coworkers was actually a witch.
Oh no, different backgrounds, religions, and beliefs. How did your fragile soul navigate this obstacle course of demonic influencers? We don't need to repeat this. It was the part of our story told at the beginning of this video.
I sat next to a girl who was a Reiki instructor and a yoga instructor, and I worked with a woman who was a Buddhist and a woman who was from India who was a Hindu. There was all these different kind of religious influences that I just kind of rolled with all of it.
You worked in human resources and rolled with all these various coworkers coming from different religious backgrounds? How incredibly brave of you! And you standing so precariously on the cliff between damnation and salvation. How did you ever manage to strengthen your faith with all these heathens around you?
And I remember the cool thing to do at the time was to go see psychic mediums.
That was the cool thing to do at the time? Are you just a leaf being blown around by every soft breeze that gets stirred up? You have zero agency in your life. Did you not understand the words, no thank you? Here, let me demonstrate. Hey, after work, me and the gang are going to see a psychic. Want to join us? It'll be fun. No thank you. See? That's all you have to do. No drama, no peer pressure.
And I would ask the psychic medium questions about my future. I was so focused on what's going to happen to me. I needed to know.
You were so focused on what would happen to you. You needed to know.
And I took everything these people said at face value. And what I didn't realize was I was actually opening up a portal for the devil to come into my home. I had crystals and sage and you name it in my home. And I didn't realize that I was actually opening up a door for the demonic in my life.
Sage is a common herb. Crystals are basically stones. By this logic, the devil has a portal into every kitchen and yard everywhere. Wherever sage and crystals reside, so does the devil. Do Christians have to remove sage from their kitchens and remove all crystalline stones from their yards? That must be exhausting.
After that, I left that job. I ended up getting laid off, actually.
You got laid off from that human resources job where you had to work with all those godless heathens? That's odd. I wonder why.
At one point, I was like, I would really love to have a child of my own. So I, of course, went to witchcraft because I wanted to have a baby girl so badly. I had all these boys. The dog is a boy. My husband, I was like, I want a baby girl of my own.
You don't explain what type of witchcraft you practiced, but you are using magic as your personal Santa Claus. I want this. I want that. Give it to me now. Nothing about developing your practice or if you had a philosophy around it. I have a question for you. What do you call a Christian who doesn't read the Bible, never attends church, and doesn't practice their faith, but expects God to give them whatever they want just for asking?
So I looked up all these spells. I had a friend who was into witchcraft as well. She gave me this satchel, a pink satchel that had like herbs and things in it. And she said, hang this above your bed and you'll get a baby girl. And I put like an egg under my bed. I did all these crazy rituals.
You looked up all these spells, but it sounds like your friend did the spell for you.
And I actually ended up getting pregnant by the grace of God, which I now know. But at the time, I truly thought that I got pregnant from my own doing.
Got this pink satchel from your friend, put an egg under your bed, got pregnant, but it was actually by the grace of God. Let me guess, if you would not have gotten pregnant, it would have been because witchcraft didn't work. But because it did, it was because of God. Now I think I'm understanding your logic.
And was it a girl?
It sure was.
Wow.
Well, congratulations on having a girl.
But I still wasn't married.
You weren't married. Then who was your husband you mentioned earlier?
My husband is a very traditional man, and I knew he was going to do the right thing.
Oh, she probably just misspoke earlier. She meant her current husband, and I am guessing when she got pregnant with her daughter, they were not married yet. Can girls be bastards? I always only thought of boys as being bastards. Those demonic spawns of carnal sin born outside a sanctioned union by the church.
Oh, look at the cute little bastard!
If my driver's license doesn't match my insurance card, they're not going to cover the birth. I went absolutely crazy. I lost my mind. I was waking up in pools of sweat. I was so paranoid. I was doing witchcraft spells to try and make things happen quicker.
Life is very stressful and can be difficult, especially when you're dealing with bureaucracy. You were doing witchcraft spells to make things happen quicker. Did you begin every spell with "Dear Santa"?
And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but
not really. I am sure now as a Christian you pray to God when your child gets very sick or you suffer hardship. So it's not the fact that you try to manipulate things that are outside of your control, but rather how you go about it. A witchcraft spell, a letter to Santa, and a prayer to God. Only one of these is wrong in your worldview.
This is how I started to basically lose my mind. I've never had a history of being psychotic or anything like that. I started to actually feel like it wasn't me anymore, if that makes sense. I was almost in like a dreamlike state. Like I didn't feel like anything was real.
Sounds like maybe it was similar to a nervous breakdown.
Everyone was so concerned about me because they're like, what are you saying? Like, this isn't you. And everyone knew that it wasn't me. I went to see a psychiatrist. She just put me on more medication.
Well, you sought out professional advice. That's good.
That's how high anxiety I was. When I went to meet with the psychiatrist, I shut my phone off because I said they're listening to me. I thought people were following me. It was just completely out of nowhere. And this is how I know it was something demonic in my life.
Demonic? Or overwhelming stress-induced anxiety, panic attacks, deep depression, or hopelessness? No, it was demons. Sure, let's ignore the past 100 or so years of medical and psychological research into human behavior and resort to medieval peasants' belief in unseen evil forces.
Because there was no history of this kind of behavior before in my life. It was just completely out of left field.
Weird. So this was the first time you ever had a possible nervous breakdown. Hell, I have those every few months or so. Some people have nervous breakdowns every tax season.
I was just out of it, and I was still in this dream-like state, and I would get on these medications, and I would call the doctor in a couple of days and be like, you need to put me on something else. This isn't working. I still want to kill myself.
Rough. I can only imagine what such a deep depression brought on by overwhelming stress leading to a nervous breakdown must feel like. So glad you sought professional help.
And so she put me on something different. And it was just this cycle until one day she was like, you need to stop calling me or I'm going to have you committed.
She was going to have you committed for calling her too much? Doesn't sound right. Usually this is only warranted if the person must have a severe mental illness and be at immediate risk of suicide, being homicidal, or incapable of meeting basic needs.
She said, just have your baby, and once you have your baby, everything will be better.
I'm not a medical professional, but should you have been taking those drugs while pregnant? That doesn't sound very safe for the child growing inside of you. I guess if you were only taking SSRIs, it's okay. Your doctor probably knew best.
When it finally came time for me to deliver my daughter, she actually got stuck inside of me. She got stuck behind my pelvic bone. So the doctor pressed the emergency button. All the medical staff on the floor, all the nurses and other doctors, like everyone just came running in. And I had like an outer body experience because I could see myself on the table and I could see everyone rushing in.
Wow, that's really rough. But this does not have anything to do with witchcraft. I'm going to skip ahead in her story a little bit.
I went to the Catholic Church. I had no idea where else to go. And they said, well, it's just your hormones. Like, there's no such thing as, because I said, maybe I'm possessed by the devil. They said, no, there's no such thing. That's not possible.
You've suffered a nervous breakdown. You were taking medication for severe depression, and you're having intrusive suicidal thoughts, and now a very dangerous delivery in the life of your daughter hanging in the balance. You can only lead to one conclusion: possession by the devil.
And Marion, at this time, are you still looking also into the spells and all of those things?
I was trying to fix the problem with the problem. So I was burning basil leaf. I mean, all these crazy things. I was burying things. I was trying everything I could to fix this psychosis that I had, I guess is the best way to put it.
A psychosis needs to be addressed by medical professionals. You have bigger problems to be focusing on rather than practicing witchcraft. That you're treating like a Dear Santa letter. Let me put it another way. If you break your arm, no amount of burnt basil leaves, crystals, or putting items under dirt is ever going to set your broken bone. You need to go to a medical professional and have it reset. Spells and magic are not a panacea for everything.
The priest, he did come to my home and he blessed it with holy water.
You're talking about seeing a Catholic priest about being possessed by the devil, and you're performing witchcraft. You do realize how most Christians view the act of sorcery, right?
Burn the witch! Burn the witch!
Do you smoke?
Burn the witch! Guess we'll find out soon enough.
They don't treat it the same way they do as wearing mixed linens or cutting one's hairs.
That didn't really do anything, but he gave me one really good piece of advice, and he told me to take all of the crystals and sage and all of these spell book, like get rid of everything. He said, go to a river or some water, and just throw everything in the water. I drove to a stream and I threw everything in the water.
Great, so you polluted the water. The crystals, sage, and basil probably were okay, but books tend to have paper treated with preservatives. Next time, just throw them away or donate them to Goodwill. You don't have to pollute your local stream. Well, at least you did not burn them.
Books here of witchcraft. Somebody sent us through the mail.
It got so bad that I had to send my daughter to live with my parents.
You sent your daughter to live with your parents? I'm assuming this is a few years later, as you can't exactly send a newborn to live with your parents.
Because I couldn't take care of her. And I would just, kind of feel sorry for myself. And I didn't know how I got into that situation.
In your defense, you didn't put yourself in this situation. Mental illness, a nervous breakdown, severe anxiety, and deep depression can affect anyone. It's not your fault. The complication with delivery of your daughter was not your fault. You looked for ways to cope with your problems, and luckily you sought out medical professionals. You did everything right. I don't see why you should be blaming yourself.
And I really did at this time question my belief in God and if God is real, he doesn't care about me. Because why is he letting me suffer?
I'm having a hard time understanding your beliefs at this point. You claim you're practicing witchcraft while seeing a Catholic priest. You're worried about possession and you seem to believe in the Christian God.
Nothing was getting better. I didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. So one day I waited till everyone was out of the house. I called my mom. I told her I loved her. And I swallowed 2 bottles of whatever they were, antidepressants or whatever had been prescribed to me that I decided I wasn't going to take. 2 full bottles. And I went up to my room and I laid in bed with some rosary beads and 2 pictures. I had a picture of me and my husband, a picture of me and my husband and my stepkids, and I just waited there to die.
I am sorry. I owe my audience an apology. I thought this was going to be a story about an ex-witch converting to Jesus. Instead, it is a story about a woman struggling with mental illness and overcoming deep depression. It has nothing to do with witchcraft. My apologies.
I knew that I had killed I had succeeded, so to speak.
I kept this next part in because she describes her view of heaven or her version of an afterlife.
Said out loud 3 times, God, I believe in you. God, I believe in you. God, I believe in you. Instantly, I was somewhere else. The best way I could describe it, when you were little and you had those picture books that you would flip through and it would make a picture, flashes, right? And it was a picture coming to garden with flowers and columns, gold columns, doorway. I knew that I was somewhere else. I was not in my physical body. I must have come to because I looked at the wall. I looked over at the wall to the right of me. I turned my head and there was Jesus in neon green. Again, those flash opening up his hand and a dove flew out. That dove was the Holy Spirit. I don't remember anything after that.
She didn't specify which type of antidepressants they were, but she took 2 whole bottles.
I swallowed 2 bottles of whatever they were, antidepressants, or whatever had been prescribed to me that I decided I wasn't going to take.
The most common type of antidepressants are SSRIs. Not sure what taking that many SSRIs would do to one's mental state, but that sounds more like a hallucination trip than anything else.
I was at 4 different mental hospitals in 6 months. And in each hospital, I was offered a Bible.
Oh man, I am sorry. Here you are trying to deal with all these very serious issues and somebody's pushing their faith on you. I mean, that is annoying enough when you're just walking down the street, but at least you can walk away. In a hospital where you're trying to recover, you're kind of stuck there at their mercy. That is just rude and despicable.
You're despicable.
First hospital stay, I brought my own Bible. I gave up in Genesis. I said, I don't understand this. This is different language. I'll never read this, whatever.
Oh, wait. So you brought your own Bible. Then why did they offer you a Bible? And yeah, the Bible is kind of a snooze fest. I usually zone out around the begats.
Next hospital, they gave me a Bible, but I wasn't really interested. I even had other patients trying to teach me. This one guy, his name was Isaiah. Funny enough, Isaiah, like in the Bible, and he was trying to teach me scriptures. He gave me Romans 8:28. He gave me different scriptures, and you know, it was kind of in one ear and out the other. But at this hospital stay in Westchester Medical, I actually went to Bible study. They had a chaplain and I went to Bible study and I wanted to learn and I was asking questions. Because I had had this encounter with Jesus, the Bible it was real now and it made sense to me. And funny enough, my TikTok, Instagram, all these things started coming up with Christian content that I had not put in there. God works in mysterious ways.
Yes, the algorithms work in mysterious ways. You search for recipes and more recipe suggestions keep coming up. You search for game demos and more game demos keep being suggested to you. Nah, it must be God.
I reached out to Evan Wilson on Instagram. He responded to my message, him and his wife, and they were so kind to me. They pointed me to the prayer. They do like a prayer Zoom call, and I was on the phone with this girl who said, you need to go back 3 generations and repent for witchcraft in your bloodline that you don't even know.
Well, I'm happy you found a faith that works for you and that there is a support group for you to reach out to. But your story has nothing to do with witchcraft. It has everything to do with mental health, depression, and navigating the stress of being a mother. If burning sage and basil makes you a witch, then half the bad cooks in the world are by default witches.
And I do believe, I come from Italian culture. I do believe there is witchcraft in there, and maybe it could go back generations that I don't even know about.
Oh, wait, you're Italian? Well, that changes everything. You definitely were a witch, and probably have an uncle who is in the mafia. And you probably eat nothing but pasta. Let's see, what other Italian tropes can I play off?
Marianne, for the people who are watching who trying to use crystals, trying to use sage, trying to use all of these different methods, spells, what would you say to those people who are watching who are still getting involved with those things?
I would say that you are not the author of your destiny, nor would you want to be. God is sovereign and he is in control. And anything else is idolatry, it's witchcraft, and it's an abomination to the Lord.
You hear that? Burning sage, playing with crystals, and wording spells to make things happen in your life? That is idolatry. You should only be praying to God for things to happen in your life.
All those items they're really just counterfeiter. Like the devil is a counterfeiter. He wants you to think that you're in control because then you become your own God.
You really don't sell this devil character. God wants you to be dependent on him, and the devil encourages you to be independent and to be your own God. That might not be the sales pitch you were thinking it is.
And just repent and throw all that stuff away and give your life to Jesus, because he will guide you in the right way. Just be obedient to him and things will work out for you.
Yet again, another supposed ex-witch who claimed witchcraft had a negative impact on her life, when actually it was not. This woman suffered from severe depression and may have had a nervous breakdown coupled with the use of drugs and drinking. This only aggravated her condition. It had zero to do with performing witchcraft as she claims. Christians such as her need the devil to exist so that by extension they can claim that their God exists. And so they do their best to disparage those of us who study and practice the esoteric arts and study the occult, claiming it is evil, demonic, and powers given by the adversary himself. Why? Because they fear us. It is the only conclusion I have come to. And so they lie, manipulate, and disparage us as best they can. Until next time, my friends, I will see you in hell, you heathens.
They say we cast our spells in the dark, that we worship demons in the park. But the truth is so much more than lies. A path of wisdom, no disguise. Beyond nature, the earth, the sky. In the ancient ways we don't deny. The power's not in curses or fear, but in connection, crystal clear. Beyond the myths, beyond the lies, we walk in truth with open eyes. We're not your shadows, we're not your chains.